Coming up on this edition of Hog Central Podcast, it is Texas Week. I'll reminisce with Baz, and we'll look ahead to this meeting with Texas. Hopefully it goes a little like it did in 2021. I doubt it, but we can hope.
This is the Hog Central Podcast, sponsored by Oaklawn Sports, Arkansas's best sports betting app. Bet with the brand you trust. Bet with Oaklawn Sports. And now, here's your host, Steve Sullivan.
Welcome to our Hog Central Podcast. I'm Steve Sullivan, KTV sportscaster, along with the host of Morning Mayhem, David Bazzel, also former Razorback linebacker, team captain. All right, Baz, it's Texas Week.
Yeah, how about that? It's always a special week, Sully. When I was a player from Florida, I really didn't understand the passion for that game until I looked around campus and there was a different buzz. There were all the fraternities and sororities had signs out, something that you normally would see for homecoming. But Texas Week was a big deal. And, of course, in the 80s, you're only 20 years removed from the 60s.
Yes.
And now, obviously, it's been 60 years since the 64 championship. But for anybody over the age of 50 in this state, you know the game's always big.
You know it's a special rivalry when they make up shirts, beat Texas.
True. and it's crazy, Sully. Texas always has the most money, has the biggest this and all that. And Arkansas was always, they knew if to beat Texas, that was the standard.
Yeah.
And Broyles did it. Broyles said it back in the 60s, and they've always beat us more. They beat us a lot more than we beaten them. Yeah, it's always special when we win.
Meeting number 80, they're 56 and 23, but Arkansas has won 5 out of the last 7.
Sure have. Isn't that something? I think the bad thing is Steve Sarkisian now is aware. We hammered him in 2021, and he knows it, and I think he wants a little payback. And they're a better team than what we face in 2021.
I think the great thing with Sarkisian is only exposure to the rivalry is when Darren McFadden was there. Jerry Jones was there. It was all the Razorback royalty. Sam Pittman put all the chips in the middle, and they just blew out Texas. And
Texas was not physical. We were much more physical. That was sort of shocking to see, but that's not the same Texas team now. Yeah. And they have a lot to play for, Sully. They've got the playoff rankings, all that, and I think they want a little payback, and then we're not playing well. So timing's not great for us, but usually we always get it to play. Now, if you look at it, I saw a study the other day, Razorbacks play much better at night. We have not played well at home during day games, and if we're not careful, they could come out there and hang a lot on us.
We have a big 1-hour special on KTV, 10 to 11 on Saturday. I've been pouring through all this old Razorback Texas video, and it's been so much fun.
Yes.
My biggest takeaway, you know what it is looking back?
What's that?
All the great players.
Yeah.
For Arkansas. You even look back at that 87 game, which I think is the worst finish in the rivalry, one of the worst outside of 69.
Yeah.
But, it's 4 seconds to go, and they throw a pass over the middle from like 18 yards, and it's perfectly guarded. And one of those defenders on that play was Steve Atwater.
Yeah.
And you look through even your 81 game, and just Gary Anderson, just all
Bill Ray Smith,
all the great players.
Jesse Clark, and of course – that was the number 1 team in the nation, and it's great to beat Texas, but even better when they're number 1 and to embarrass them like that too.
There's a history too when you go back of Arkansas playing great defense, and that's the thing that's bothered me for the last I don't know how many years is.
Yeah.
You don't have the great safeties anymore. You thought you had one in Jalen Catalon.
Yeah, and if you look, even Sam Pittman, I thought was interesting in his press conference this week, said, we don't want to do what we did last year, which was fall apart defensively. And that's sort of what it looked like against Ole Miss. It's like, where is everybody at? And I specifically remember that happening against Missouri last year and probably against Auburn. And now the good thing about it, Sully, I think our offense is going to have to keep us in this game. Because if we keep trotting our defense out there, they'll score on us.
Yeah, the one thing that really concerns me that any decent quarterback, and you can go back to Oklahoma State, they've had horrible seasons, but Bowman kind of lit up the Razorback secondary. Yeah. And you look at the last couple, and, it started with Nussmeier.
Yeah.
And then
listen, Quinn Ewers is excellent too, Sully. And maybe not as good as Jackson Dart, but he threw 5 touchdowns against Florida.
You think of the 3 quarterbacks you're facing back-to-back, and you're one of the worst secondaries in the SEC. Yeah. And now this week it's open competition, and that's a good thing and a bad thing because you could have a couple of new starters in that secondary facing a Texas offense that one thing they have that Ole Miss didn't have, a lot of window dressing.
Yeah.
I mean, and you better tackle on the the outside perimeter because they have great backs.
Yeah, Sully, and they're well coached.
Yeah.
They got great players, and again, I think that they know there's a lot to be playing for here. And Sully, we're not the worst in the SEC. In secondary, we're 120 out of 134 and against the pass.
Yeah.
We quickly just
and what's the sad thing is we brought in some transfers from Tennessee. I mean, we brought in some guys in that secondary that we thought were going to be kind of the strength of that defense.
Yeah, I sometimes wonder, Sully, this whole transfer portal deal. If you're not getting a starting player, if you're getting a second string player from another team. Is there a reason he's second string? But I'll tell you, Sully, I think there was two things against Ole Miss. It was poor play, and it's some poor coaching. Let me tell you, you got to have your guys ready to play. You got to have somebody. We were up there and we were watching Hudson Clark out there by himself, pressing on
no safety,
pressing on Watkins without safety behind him. The safety was over the middle, and then Watkins just ran right by him and he threw a touchdown.
These coaches are getting paid a lot, and we give them a pass that they're all doing a great job when, that's a big part of the game too. I started searching today for the makeup of Ole Miss. And, you talk about all their transfers, but they have 14 starters who played last year.
Yeah.
They may have transferred in, but in the defense, they realized they had to upgrade.
Yeah. They bought the whole defense.
They had 6 new defenders come in this year.
Yeah.
To go with their 5.
Yeah.
One of them was Chris Paul, but every one of them was like,
all the defensive
Walter
line
Nolan
was the premier guys.
Yeah, but they hit with 6.
Yeah.
And that's what you have to do. You have to get some of these guys. Now, with Arkansas, here's what concerns me is offensive line has been a problem area. 5 of the top 6 linemen return. You're going to roll with them.
What you about next year?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. You've already talked about next year.
I'm starting to look to next year.
Oh, my gosh. It's can we just get through this year? I don't know, Sully. I think you see against the premier players, these guys struggle, which is disappointing because that's Sam's strength, and I know it's disappointing.
You only lose Braun. Now, if you could transfer out, but you're going to get back, 5 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, well, here's the deal, Sully. The tape's still out. We'll see how they play against Texas. We'll see how they play against Missouri. I think that tells you a lot to where, it's just like, so I don't care who's playing there. We got to coach them up. We got to coach them up. We got to coach them better. I know talent is a big thing, but I think we got enough talent up there to be able to, and maybe not. Maybe this is as good as they are, and they're just outmatched, and that's the way it goes. And so, but we saw them play well against Tennessee.
Yeah,
and Tennessee's still in the mix in this thing. We beat Tennessee.
It's hard week to week. It's all about matchups. So.
Yeah.
I really believe to succeed in the NFL, you have in the SEC, you have to have NFL talent.
Yes,
it's the same thing.
Same thing. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and NFL. They're all.
But I look at the top of our roster, and I think Arkansas is losing their 3 best players. You're going to lose Armstrong. You're going to lose Landon Jackson. You're going to lose Gregory.
You got 3 games to go, and you're already talking about people. Yes.
Yeah, but I'm starting to look next year. Yeah. I mean, that's when Sam Pittman announced he was having his hip surgery. He's been in some serious pain.
Right after the
he was in pain during our preseason special.
I feel his pain.
Yeah. I'm afraid most fans don't care about his pain now. I mean, they're feeling the pain of this season, but he's gone through a tough thing. But I looked at that as him almost turning the page.
I think so.
Turning
the page in the sense of his future or just this year?
To next season, that he plans on being back next season.
Oh, that he won't coach in the bowl game?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I think they're pretty good at that. But yeah, listen, he's been in pain all year. I feel sorry for him.
Yeah.
Listen, I've got a bad bone on bone, and plus when you're not winning, man, it just makes it even worse.
Yeah.
I tell you, you're hurt and you're not playing well. Remember, Sully, we gave up how many yards? 729 yards last week, and so problem is we're right back at it. Another 11 o'clock start against a team that Ole Miss needed to win that game. Yeah. Texas needs to win this game, so it's going to take a really amazing effort. The Oklahoma Sports line, I think, is 14 on it, so I think they're not favored.
Vegas has given up on Arkansas. It was 2 or 3 against
seven
LSU,
against,
7 against Ole Miss, and now it started at 17. It's down to 13, I think, at Oklahoma Sports app. They're not rolling.
Texas is so good, but this is a rivalry game. But I think Texas has some extra motivation. I think Sarkisian remembers. Don't tell me people don't. Yeah. They remember. I think he wants to pay.
Defensively, what was really bothered me was the easy touchdowns. And the huge chunk plays.
Yeah.
I mean, they weren't getting just 8 and 10 and nickel and diming you. They were getting 40, 50, 60.
Yeah, here's the thing. People aren't going to like it, but I would rather them run the ball than to have a guy go 60, 60, 60, 40, 60. It just that's 5 seconds. 5 seconds. Make them earn it, over time. If you can't cover deep, keep everything in front of you like we did the Mississippi State games a few years ago, and just come up and stop the run and try to have a slow bleed instead of a fast bleed.
I'm looking at highlights when I look at these past Texas-Arkansas games, and Matt Jones. I like Taylon Green, but he's not Matt Jones. I mean, and one thing Matt Jones did a lot, they didn't keep him in the pocket, say, maybe 40 or 50% of the time. A lot of times he would roll out, and he was a decent thrower.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, but he would put the defense in crisis.
Well, yeah. And to me, Sully, I think you have to do that the majority of the plays. If you don't get him outside the pocket, you're losing the value of him. Him just dropping back, I think, is not the thing to do. You get him out of the pocket, I think he throws well on the run, and it threatens the defense, as you say. And so, but you got to tell him, hey, listen, if you see green space, don't hesitate, go.
But this is 11 games, and we haven't really done that.
Yeah.
They've
at times
he's become a better pocket passer.
Yeah.
But this offense has A, too many sacks, too many negative plays, and B, too many penalties to get behind the chains.
That's right. And I think, Sully, if you keep that standard drop back, I just think it opens up the opportunity for sacks and tackles for losses by the defense to me. I think we struggle. I think the offensive line struggles in a traditional drop back. You get him outside the pocket, the traditional pocket, it gives him a little bit more freedom. He's not dealing with 4 or 5 guys. He's maybe dealing with 1 or 2.
The good thing about the SEC, there hasn't been a team that's just skated through without getting a test. I mean, I watched Texas struggle offensively against Vandy, and it was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter.
And listen, Georgia whipped them.
Yeah.
So I just don't know if we're physical enough to do that. But you need some breaks too. When we beat Texas in '81, they put the ball on the ground multiple times. You have to have some breaks. And so if they go out there and play their best football, we won't stay with them. But, who knows if they'll do that or not. And maybe we'll play our best game of the year.
I think you made a good point early. You got to go into this game feeling like your offense has got to win the game.
Yeah.
They can't settle for 3 points. You got to take chances. You got to go for touchdowns.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, you'll see 40 or 50 points on the scoreboard if you don't. I'm just telling you, you keep trotting out that Texas offense, it'll wear us down, and there'll be big play after big play. And Steve Sarkisian will remember 2021 and run that score up, like he needs to do for his team for the playoffs.
No, I know he's not going to make that big a difference, but mentally I felt a little better when I heard that Jaquindon Jackson could play. Because I have memories of weeks and weeks ago.
Was that last year?
How good he was early in the season.
I know. I remember us talking about this. We talked about this. His narrative at Utah was that he would get banged up. It was hard for him to finish the season. We start during game, and he would get nicked and go out, come back in. And you said 3 games we've missed him now? 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's good. He makes a difference. And so, of course, he wants to play against Texas because he was
Texas guy.
The number 3 Texas player in the state coming out of high school. So he wants to play this game.
I think it goes back to Taylon Green, though. Anytime an opponent puts in that tape, the one guy that can wreck the game is Taylon Green. And that's one thing the opponents that have really trashed us have done a good job of containing him.
I will say this, though, Sully. If Jackson is 100%, and he does provide another threat to where if you've got to pay attention to where he's at, and I think he will help. If you don't run the ball against these guys, which again they were susceptible to Florida. I think Bruce James said today Florida had 200 yards rushing against them, so that might be a little something a problem for them and their defense to maybe Arkansas can take advantage of.
Yeah, that's what's made the SEC way interesting this year is. Anything can happen on any Saturday. You'll look at a score, and it'll be far closer than you ever thought it could be.
Well, did you see, on the other hand, last week you had possible program-changing wins for Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Then you had, LSU was feeling good about themselves. And Alabama completely ran them out of the stadium.
Yeah, so, that was like the old Alabama. They didn't even have to pass. They just ran Jalen Miller on.
I'm telling you.
It was physical.
What's funny is that Brian Kelly comes out and said, we've been practicing on that. Of course, came after open week.
Yeah.
2 weeks on that option play.
Do you know he has the highest paid defensive coordinator in college football, $2.5 million.
Came from Missouri. He's not winning the Broyles Award this year.
He couldn't stop the quarterback run. I mean, that just shows you if you don't have the Jimmies and Joes, you can draw up what you want. You can have the guy there, but if he can't tackle Jalen Milroe.
I know. It's so, the other game this week, you look at South Carolina, all of a sudden South Carolina, all right, they're not going to be an easy team to beat.
Yeah, so. that's a team I compare Arkansas to as far as and they're aiming the right way.
Yeah.
I mean, they beat Vandy soundly.
They did. And they have Missouri this week.
Yeah.
So speaking of, Missouri winning against Oklahoma, they're 7-2, Sully. I was hoping maybe they would run out of steam before we got to Columbia at the end of the year. But if they pick up another win and get to 8 games, it's going to be tough.
I have a hard time believing Missouri is 7-2.
Sully.
Every time I've watched them, they've not looked impressive.
I cannot drive back from Columbia with another loss. I can't do it, Sully. I've done it for 5 out of the last 10 years.
I think it's important for Sam Pittman going into hip surgery that he gets 2 wins in the last 3 games, and not an embarrassing loss to Texas.
Yeah, I think style points are important now, Sully. They are. It's one thing. Everybody says, if you get to 6 wins. If you get to 6 wins, I get it. You're going to a bowl game.
6 wins was good when we were back at the beginning of the season, but when you got to halfway point, you were 4-2.
Yeah.
With the thinking of you could be 6-0.
Yeah, that's right. And then the other point is if you're losing close games, is one thing. If you're getting beat by 30 or 40, you don't want that. Yeah.
And it's not like LSU's been just pounding everyone either.
I tell you, this college football, boy,
it's hard to figure.
It's
Well,
you look at Indiana. Look at what a story that is.
I looked at Nussmeier.
Colorado. Look at them. I mean,
that guy's replacing 50 players a year. I mean, who would have ever thought that thing would last more than 1 year? But he's
got good coaches in.
He's got 2. He's got NFL players. He's got Shedeur Sanders
right.
and he's got Travis Hunter. I mean, that's one thing. I think that's one thing you have to have.
Yeah.
Is to be good. You have to have NFL players on your roster.
Oaklawn Sports is so simple to use, anyone can do it. Probably even an ex-football player.
And you can take it anywhere. Pocket size, sort of like you, Raj.
Small perhaps, but powerful, like this offer.
Sign up now for Oaklawn Sports and get up to $1,000 in bonus bets.
That's like a do-over in case you make a questionable decision.
Too bad they can't do that for haircuts.
I'm calling your mom.
Now with new and easy funding options. Bet with the brand you trust. Bet with Oaklawn Sports.
Light it. We can take people where most people cannot take them.
The generations coming together.
That place was jumping.
The Triple Option, presented by Wendy's, wherever you get your podcasts.
How do you think this washes out? Does the SEC in the end just dominate the college football playoff?
I think Oregon, Dan Lanning he's
an SEC guy.
He's an SEC guy, Broyles Award finalist 2 years in a row. I think he gets it. I think, that win against Ohio State was big. They go on the road against Michigan. I think they've got the closest to be able to compete with an SEC team. They got speed and they're physical. I still think, Sully, if I had to lay money on it, you look at the Texas, the Georgia, the Bama, the Ole Miss, the 4 tough teams.
Who do you think ends up in the SEC championship game? Who do you think right now, if you want to see the 2 best teams play, who would you have play?
I think Texas gets back in it. That's why the Georgia.
Who do you think are the 2 best? Who would you like to see match up?
I would say right now, Texas and Ole Miss.
Yeah, I haven't seen Texas. I mean, I want to see. I've seen Texas against Vandy. I wasn't way impressed.
Yeah.
I thought Jackson Dart was better than Quinn Ewers.
Yeah.
And how impressive was Ole Miss's second-team quarterback? That's scary.
I know. Wow. Yeah, so it's those 4. You got Georgia and Alabama. Maybe Alabama now is playing good football. I don't know if that was an LSU problem or just an Alabama. They're sort of settling in. Alabama is playing good football.
I think you got to be more diverse than they are offensively. Maybe not.
Who's that?
Alabama.
Yeah,
Alabama's running like they're giving the ball to Jalen Hurts left, Jalen Hurts right.
That's not a bad LSU defense though. That's amazing.
They shredded them.
They did. They just the holes were wide open, and the guys. Of course, we know Milroe.
Yeah.
I'll never forget 2 years ago when
we had saw the first big run.
That's right. We had momentum, and it was fourth quarter or something, and all of a sudden he goes through the middle, nobody lays a hand on him.
Yeah, that's the thing with Sam Pittman that has, kind of gone away the last 2 years. In parts of the season, he was so competitive in every game. And then the end of last year, those 2 games, and then these last 2, I mean, that 63-31 was bad. And that was – and, Ole Miss offense, if their defense won in the game last Saturday. Yeah. Their offense has not been dynamic this year. They spent their money on defense, and they've been okay on offense, but not great. And then they hang 63. I mean, they do what they want without their number one receiver. That's bad.
I know. Yeah, it's Sully, it's hard to believe. What is the week? Is this week 12, 13?
Yeah, it's just going back and forth. It's just like it's hard to believe. Remember that first week we were after that first half of the Oklahoma State game?
Sully, we're like, oh my gosh, we're going.
They
to the
lost
SEC,
that game.
We're going to the SEC championship. I've never seen this kind of domination. Wow.
Yeah.
Bobby Petrino, Taylon Green, the defense. I would tell you, and then it just all came crashing down.
Yeah.
That's all right.
It's I really think, though, Saturday, you've got to be competitive. I think fans will be disgusted if it's 28-7 after a quarter.
That was interesting. Barry Switzer, Ken Hatfield, and Freddie Marshall spoke at the Touchdown Club this week. And asked Coach Hatfield, you guys did something that nobody's done. You were the first to even come close to it. Arkansas was the best in the nation. Do you think this program can ever get back to that? And, of course, Coach Hatfield said the right thing. He does. You look at Ole Miss, Sully, they're in the hunt.
Yeah.
And it's a combination of coaching, combination of raising NIL funds, and making the right choices. But with this new deal, the question is, can we raise enough money? Can we get the players we need? Is it possible? Barry Switzer was talking about, can Oklahoma do that? Can you outbid Texas for the best players? Can you outbid somebody else, Ole Miss? And so, crazy time to be a coach in this college day. Saturday
it was just strange watching that Ole Miss Georgia game and watching Ole Miss control the line of scrimmage.
Sure did. They did it with us, and of course we knew.
Yeah, but Georgia is Georgia.
I know.
They're the gold standard for physical play.
I know. I thought it would be a close game to the end, but they obviously took control. And listen, you talk to Kirby Smart, all of them. This is a line of scrimmage league. I think college football greatness is in the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
If you've got, that's why Texas is better. That's why Ole Miss is better. Nick Saban said at the beginning of the year, said Ole Miss is going to be better because now they look like an SEC offensive and defensive line.
If I have to have a couple of $1 million players on my team,
it's
not going to be the quarterback and the tailback. It's going to be the two ends.
Yeah.
You go and spend that money on the pass rushers.
Yeah.
They change games.
Yeah, they do.
And you look.
But you know what, Sully? I can't stand it. I hate that. That's what this is about. Hey, let's go out and buy the best player.
Yeah, the greatest.
It's like the NFL. We see this on Sundays. We're going to see it on Saturday too.
The greatest example of that is Chris Paul. He was from the outside in. He was enjoying his time at Arkansas. He was a team captain, and he's going hotty toddy now for Ole Miss. He goes bang for money. That was it.
Well, that's the way the system works. I can't stand it. Bruce J., anybody who played the system before, there's no loyalty to a state. It's a transactional kind of deal. Where can I get the most money? Where's the best situation for me? Where can I play? Listen, kids are just doing what they're allowed to do, and I hope maybe at some point this changes too. I think Arkansas is going to continue to struggle. I understand, Sully, it's tough for this program to make the paycheck every week to its players. So it's not sustainable. So hopefully it will change at some point. They just opened up, the NCAA made the ruling that unlimited visits, official visits, you can have 1,000. It's like if I'm a coach, like, holy cow.
Unlimited coaches, too. I mean, you can have basketball, some of these guys have 20 guys.
You saw my tweet the other day. There were no players.
Yeah.
Where are the players at? Wow, this is what it's become.
I think you almost need a coach like Calipari right now.
Yeah.
Who can access.
Just like Kiffin.
Who can
access. Been the pro level.
Tyson.
Yeah.
Who can, money isn't a problem with our basketball team. We can sign every 5-star we want, and that guy's going to get paid.
No, that's not what I've heard.
It's not what you've heard.
That's not what I've heard. I've heard that, listen, it's a challenge in NIL over there because Tyson and Stevens are not underwriting NIL. That's what I hear.
Okay.
So I could be wrong.
Yeah.
But this is what I've heard. So that unlimited money, now they're doing it, but I understand it ain't easy. It's not easy. So,
but you go before that, you had Musk getting Hunt.
That's right. Your point is well made. That you've got. Thankfully, we've got those big donors like a Frank Fletcher and those guys.
Yeah, but I think you've got to have a head coach who can access.
No question. I get you.
That they want to get close to him and pay that money.
It's funny. I heard today. Well, Bruce James was telling the story that Lane Kiffin. The rumor is that he's not great with donors. He's not great with boosters.
Yeah.
That he wants to walk in there. Hey, get out. I don't feel like shaking hands and. It works.
Yeah,
if you win, Sully, that's what it's all about. It's about winning. Give me a 1-second handshake, win the game, I'm fine.
Yeah. How big was that win for him?
Yeah.
I mean,
could be a program changer.
I mean, if he had lost that narrative continues that they had that stat with him, like 2 and 15 against the top 2 teams. I think it was.
Yeah.
You know,
and the way they did it too. So, and again, back to the point, people in Arkansas are going, "Wow, Ole Miss did that. We've used to beat Ole Miss, and can we do that?" So that's the challenge. That's the question.
Yeah, you got to get. In Indiana showing you they brought guys from James Madison.
Yeah.
And
he had done a great job. Signetti had done a great job at James Madison.
Yeah, but still, how do those guys translate coming into the Big Ten? And now he's, they just haven't won. Well, they've won every week impressively.
It goes to show you what great coaching is. Listen, that dude understands the kinesiology of bodies. I'm telling you, I heard him breaking down hip movement and all that. He's tough-nosed. Now, listen, they barely beat a Michigan team that ain't great. They beat them 20-15, but they never beat Michigan hardly in forever. Yeah. So it goes to show you, that's 1 year, Sully. 1 year, they are 10-0. 1 year. Wow.
Yeah, I think the difficult thing if you're a head coach is to, examine, like you got that secondary. Something's going wrong. Either it's the athletes or the secondary coach isn't a great fit. Or you could point back to the secondary coach is saying, "Hey, the defensive line gets no pressure."
Yeah,
and we don't know. It could be and we don't know where the linebackers are in as far as covering these receivers. I mean, you got to get better, and you got to make changes.
Well, Sam Pittman said that the press conference after Ole Miss, he said we couldn't cover them, so my deal was, hey, let's back up and let's let them run forever. And he said we'd back up in a cover two, and we'd have a couple safeties, and they still run around us. They'd catch the ball right in front of us and run around us, and so. Yeah, although we got to say, that was a really good Ole Miss team. Yeah, and we are deficient in the secondary.
Yeah, but that wasn't a over the top Ole Miss offense that was putting 50 and 60. They hadn't scored 30 points against a conference opponent before they played Arkansas.
Bring that up. Thanks, Sully. Great.
And they didn't really just light up Georgia. They scored points and they moved the ball
that
well.
That was a physical. That was a fist fight, and they showed they could be physical.
Yeah, one thing we haven't even talked about through this entire podcast is the possibility that Arkansas pulls the upset and what this would mean to the program.
Yeah. Oh, Sully, it was a game changer for Sam Pittman. Yeah. Again, I think the last time we played them, I think they were 15th. I don't think we were ranked.
Yeah.
But this is a different Texas team.
That
was Sarkisian's first year, and so I'm not as optimistic because I know I've watched him. Now listen, we could go. We beat Tennessee at home. Yeah. That was a night game. Yeah. Atmosphere was great. Don't like playing at 11.
I thought Arkansas was a better team on the line of scrimmage in that game. I don't think Texas is what Ole Miss is on the line of scrimmage.
Defensively?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I think we might can. If we do what Florida did, maybe we could run the ball. Listen, I think we're a better running team than Florida is, so maybe we can move the chains, keep Texas off the field.
They are like number one in the country or top 3 or 4 in pass defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't,
Well, hey, maybe we hope that Ewers goes down. Oh, crap, I forgot who their backup is. There's a Manning. It's a Manning. No! We don't need another Manning.
Yeah, I think you hit it, though, and we've mentioned a couple of times, the offense has got to be got to take it upon themselves and say, hey, the defense has given up, 34 and 63.
Can't put them back out there very much,
And we can't settle for field goals on Saturday.
Or if you're going to settle for one, make it.
Yeah, well, we've seen during the year that's a 50-50 proposition.
It is.
You'll hit one, you'll miss one.
It's a flip of the coin.
All right, I appreciate you, Baz.
Hopefully, we're talking about a win when we come back, Sully. Yeah. And I had a bad week on the Oaklawn Sports app. After 5 weeks, Sully, of 70%.
Yeah, I want to thank Oaklawn.
Yeah, right down the tubes. So next week, if you want to go against me, but I'm going to come back and try to keep it going.
And Broyles Award, you're moving to Oaklawn this year.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Thanks to Wayne Smith, and it's going to raise the bar of this award now in year 29.
I know you've been scouting assistant coaches around the country. Indiana, have a chance?
I think Indiana, anytime you see a program, Colorado, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Anytime you see programs have a drastic change, there's a good chance that an assistant coach.
And Ole Miss's defensive coordinator is Pete Golding, right?
Yeah, he was at Alabama.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where you normally see. You can look at Will Stein at Oregon.
Yeah.
Who was a finalist last year. Look what they are doing offensively again. Doesn't matter who the pieces are, they still keep scoring points. So.
They've found a way to get great quarterbacks.
They sure did.
Now.
Just think, how in the heck does Oklahoma let him go?
Yeah.
I was talking to Coach Switzer about this. Do you pay whatever the difference was and say we got to keep that kid? We can't let him go. I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard. On some players, you're going to have to. I mean, that's the whole thing, and you hate
ridiculous,
to.
Ridiculous.
What do you do with the kid, say, and you paid him coming in $500,000, $800,000, and he didn't perform? How does that next year to go? Is it there's no transparency. Is this a 3-year deal or
Yeah. I'll be glad one of these days when it's all transparent.
Yeah,
what's
and you
going
can
on.
see what these deals are.
But Saturday morning, our show, Saturday morning daybreak. How about that?
Yeah,
10 to 11.
A lot of great stuff. One thing I would love to see in the future is, regardless of who the president is, go in the locker room of the winning team. That Nixon moment. Even in the Razorback locker room.
Yeah.
Was so good, and just the trophy presentation. When it's in the locker room, I know they like to do it on the field.
I know.
But it was so much better in that locker room.
That was cool. That was good old days.
Yeah, and Channel 7's fortunate. We have all that old video of Nixon in the locker room. And
Nixon with Texas?
No, with Arkansas.
Oh, after Nebraska?
No, after Texas.
Which year?
69.
Oh, yeah, you said going in the Texas locker room.
No, going in the Arkansas locker room.
Oh, after they had lost. I thought you were saying you had the video of him presenting the trophy.
No, but
going in and saying, oh, it's very depressive, very, very depressed Arkansas locker room.
Yeah, but the way he handled it.
Yeah, I know, it was really cool.
And the way he complimented the Arkansas fans, and he said, this is obviously the whole state was behind you, that you've done something special.
Just a rare moment that a sitting president would go in both locker rooms and see. You see Bruce James. I think Bruce James is in the video.
And you see how classy Coach Broyles was.
Oh,
even
miserable.
Even in just a horrible defeat, but so handled it with such class.
Yeah, and of course the Texas locker room was very happy. So
but I only saw the video from the Arkansas locker room.
Oh, is that right? I think I've seen that. It was a pretty joyous Texas locker
but
room.
they were thrilled. He went and talked to Chuck Dicus and Bill Montgomery, and what a great memory for them.
Well, I know that Darrell Royal, we heard the story yesterday. Coach Hatfield said that after Arkansas beat Texas in 1964, Darrell Royal came in there and said, you beat a good Texas team, a great Texas team today. Don't mess up the rest of the way or we'll be here to pick up the pieces. Texas goes undefeated, beats Joe Namath in Alabama, gives Arkansas the national championship after Arkansas beats Nebraska. So how cool is that?
And I do like that this means something to Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
I mean, he took.
Well, that's not good for Arkansas.
I liked his line. What did Coach Royal do to these guys? They hate us.
I thought that was a great line.
And we figure his only reference point is that night when everyone in Arkansas showed up as far as the royalty, except for Bazzel, who had COVID. And they got smashed.
Students on the field. It was,
yes.
I'm telling you,
that's his one memory of the rivalry.
We made it look easy.
Yeah.
We made it look easy.
But he knows how big this game is to Arkansas because he got to see it firsthand.
He did. Yeah, and I'm sure they want some payback, so we'll see.
I went and watched his press conference.
Yeah.
It was I think it was COVID time. And hearing him explain, they were asking questions. They ran for 330 yards. He said, we really couldn't. They kind of wore us down and just did what they wanted.
That's a completely different team than what they have now.
Yeah, but you could tell even then he was measuring what he would need going forward to compete with a team like that.
And he's done it. You got to give him credit for it. Yeah, he was a Broyles Award winner too this year at Alabama.
Okay, gut feeling. What do you think happens Saturday?
Yeah, I think Texas is too much for us. I just don't think we can keep up with it. I hope we're competitive. I just think Texas has got too much on the line to lose this game. So I think the Razorbacks will not get it done this weekend.
All right, well, tune in to our Razorback special. That is 10 to 11 Saturday morning on KTV. We'll have a lot of fun reminiscing about the good times and looking ahead to Saturday's big game. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the Hog Central Podcast. New episodes drop Tuesday on YouTube or listen on the go. Find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and every major podcast platform.